Hey guys, it's Alex from 7th Hour Films, and today we're doing another book review, which I know is still a little out of the ordinary, but today is going to be the three-part comic book series of Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is The Promise. The Promise takes place, I think, about a year after the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I can check. I have the comic books here, just to be sure. Shibbity boy. Yeah, 1 year later. I probably cut some of that out. Yeah, 1 year later. And basically, if you know Avatar: The Last Airbender, we're pretty much going to be jumping into spoilers for that, and some spoilers for The Promise. So let's just start talking about it. Picking up where the show left off, the Fire Lord has been defeated. Fire Lord Ozai has been defeated. The war is over. Kaput. Zuko has been crowned the new Fire Lord, and basically, it starts with the Earth King, Fire Lord Zuko, and Aang, the Avatar Aang, have decided that they're going to start a harmony restoration movement, I think is what they call it. And basically, it's going to be the, I suppose, evacuation, or I guess just like, or deportation, I guess. The deportation of Fire Nation colonials from the Earth Kingdom back to the Fire Nation. Because during the war, the Fire Nation colonized parts of the Earth Kingdom, and so the Earth Kingdom is like, hey, we want that land back. And so those colonies are going to become Fire Nation. You get the drill. And just after they planned this, Zuko asks Aang to make a promise for him. Is that if he ever starts to lose his way, and if he starts to become evil like Fire Lord Ozai, he wants Aang to just end his life right there. Just don't take any chances with... He doesn't want the world to be plunged back into war, and so he says, basically, if I ever start to become like Ozai, just kill me. Right then and there. And Aang reluctantly makes the promise. And he's kind of, pretty much throughout, this is why it's called The Promise, obviously. Throughout the comic books, throughout the three parts, Aang is really conflicted on what he should do. Especially because things don't really go as planned. Zuko goes to the Fire Nation colonies, specifically the colony of Yu Dao, because that's the oldest one, and he sees that it's really just, it's not just, Fire Nation, just the Fire Nation is there. It's that it's a merger now of Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom. The two cultures have kind of become one, and the best example of this in Yu Dao is that there's a girl who is an earthbender, but she is the daughter of the Fire Nation governor. And so she keeps a lot of her heritage as from the Fire Nation, but she's an earthbender. So it's interesting to see how the cultures have kind of merged over the last 100 years. And there's not really conflict between the earthbenders and the firebenders and the Fire Nation heritage and the Earth Kingdom heritage. They've just kind of started to get along, and they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave their friends, and they just don't want to leave their home, because Yu Dao is actually one of the oldest colonies, in probably like 100 or so years, maybe even older than that, because Fire Lord Sozin, I remember in the episode The Avatar and the Fire Lord in Season 3, Avatar Roku confronts Sozin, and he's like, I know I've seen the colonies, how dare you colonize the Earth Kingdom? And that's, Zuko. Roku does have some gray in his hair, but he's like nowhere close to, his death and Aang's birth, so Yu Dao is actually I believe, older than Aang. So it's interesting to see how these people don't want to leave, and they invite Zuko in to see their life. And Zuko, realizes this is harmony right here. He doesn't want them to return to the Fire Nation. He wants them to stay in their home. And so he's going against the Harmony Restoration movement because he wants to keep the colonies. Not because of power or anything like that, but because this is the home of these people. And so, but going against the Harmony Restoration movement, it's now Aang has to question, should I kill him? Is this going too far? And even Aang goes in to Yu Dao and he sees all this stuff. This is more in part 3, when Aang sees their new culture. And it's basically, it basically amounts to Zuko bringing in his troops to defend Yu Dao and defend his colonies, and the Earth Kingdom troops coming in to take control of the colonies and force all the colonists to the Fire Nation. And so basically we're about to go back to war, and now Aang has to figure out, okay, what do I do? Do I kill Zuko and let the Earth Kingdom get rid of all these people, or do I leave the colonies there and just tell the Earth Kingdom to piss off? What do I do? And this is a very interesting conflict, and this is definitely what the Avatar is supposed to be doing. This is a conflict that and this might sound a little stupid to say, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of stuttering a little bit. I don't know. Have a little Pepsi. Sorry, this is completely unscripted, so you know how those are, unscripted reviews, and sometimes my words trip over themselves. So this, it kind of seems a little weird to say, but this is definitely an issue for the Avatar that only the Avatar can do. It's something that is not really lost on Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, but it definitely takes a backseat to some of the things that happen. Is that the Avatar is a negotiator. They have to be a negotiator because they're trying to keep peace, and by keeping peace, the first answer should not be, all right, let's fight. That is definitely the answer sometimes when you have the Fire Lord, or you have, like in Legend of Korra, you have these people where the only way to stop them is a fight. But in this, you have two sides. You see both sides of them clearly, because they don't just demonize the Earth Kingdom for wanting the colonies back and pushing out all these people. You understand it. It's their land. It's not really their home, but it's their land, basically, that has been stolen, quote, stolen by the Fire Nation. So you definitely see both sides of the story. You see both sides, and it's now up to the Avatar to figure out what to do. Does the Avatar take one side, or does the Avatar have to find a middle ground to where everyone can be happy? And the middle ground is really the Avatar's job. The Avatar is supposed to find that middle ground so that everyone is happy, so that there is peace and there is balance, and Aang does figure that out. But it's still tricky because it's his solution, which I don't think I'm really going to say where, because this might be a little too spoilery, but although you probably know if you've seen Legend of Korra. But his solution technically goes against kind of what many people would associate with bringing peace and balance to the world. His solution is an entirely new thing that no one ever thought of. Even Aang has a lot of talks with Avatar Roku, the Avatar before him, and Avatar Roku is like, you have to see the movement, the Harmony Restoration movement through, because that is the only way to keep peace in the world, is for the four nations to be separated. So, you know, you have the two water tribes, the Earth Kingdom, and the Fire Nation. They all need to be four separate nations. And Aang is not sure about that because he's seen the people of Yu Dao, and he knows that this is their home. This is where they've been for, you know, over 100 years. So he's very conflicted on that, and he has to figure out, okay, what does he do? You know, does he leave the colony? Does he not leave the colony? Does he find a new solution? And he does end up finding a new solution. So it is really interesting when you see that, especially because you basically know the outcome of this if you've already seen The Legend of Korra, which I have. And it's interesting to see how it happened, really, because Korra doesn't really go into depth about what happens. They just briefly mention what happened, and it's like, okay, now let's move on to our story. And it's like, this really does show the story of how this happened, basically. So yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say. There is a subplot with Toph and her metal bending academy. It's not terribly important, but I don't know. It's kind of neat, but there's really not much to say about it, and there's really not much else to say about the Promise in general. It was really good, really solid, and it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how Aang came to the solution that he did, and what he had to go through to get this to get this solution. What he had to see to get the solution in his head, you know, because he's constantly being given more and more information by Yu Dao and by Zuko and Katara and Roku. So it's interesting to see all these different points of view coming together and how Aang processes everything to basically bring peace and balance. So yeah, it was really good, really solid. I would recommend picking it up if you have a bookstore near you. I know those are a little out of style nowadays, but hey, Barnes & Noble's still around. That's where I got mine. The only other thing I can say is that you might have noticed in the thumbnail I've used this issue. This is part 3 for the thumbnail. Now, it's kind of weird to talk about the thumbnail in the video itself, but the reason I use this issue is because there are 2 different ways you can get the Promise. You can get the 3 individual books like I did, which are out of order actually. Sorry, that annoyed me. You can get the 3 individual issues, or they do sell just one book. It's a hardback book with all 3 issues in it and some extra details, like they have like editor's notes and stuff, which is cool. It runs about $40, I believe, while the 3 of these just run $10. And again, it's kind of weird to say, but the reason I'm bringing this up is actually I don't like the cover on the combined book, because it just has Aang and Zuko, and in the back you see Roku and Fire Lord Ozai, and that's it. That's not really cool. This is really cool. Seeing Aang in the Avatar state, you have Zuko and Katara and Toph and Sokka and Appa. This is cool. And even the other 2. The other 2 are pretty cool covers too. But those are not the covers. Or the cover on the combined book is not that great. So yeah, if you have a little extra shelf space, and you actually want to save a little bit on money, I'd recommend buying just the 3 issues. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It'll probably be a little while before I get going on the next 3-parter Avatar comic book series, because I do want to get through all of them, but there's like 5 or 6 trilogies, including The Promise, and you know, each issue is like $10. So it'll take me a while, but that's alright. And probably in the next week or so, I'll actually have another book review up for a completely different book. And yeah, that is about it. So, yeah, end cards have popped up right about now. You know what to do with those. You can follow 7th Hour Films on Twitter at 7th Hour Films. It should be right over here. It should say that. And yeah, that is basically it. I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.